anything about politics. This is the show where you can ask anything that you like about politics, and I will give you a good answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this is the place where you can ask all your questions without fear of any kind of judgment or roasting or debating. I know that there's a lot of fighting when people talk about politics. That's not what we do here. We don't fight, we don't debate, we don't roast, we don't harass, we don't bully. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. So if you don't like Democrats or Republicans or whatever, that's completely fine. So long as you're just asking a good faith question, then you will get a good faith answer. What's up, John Abbott? Great to see you again. What's up, JP? Good to see you again. What's up, Muzz King? Great to see you again. Everybody is welcome here. Republican, Democrat. What's up, D. Scott? Something in the middle, something on the outskirts. There is no political ideology that I will kick you off of the show for having. Maybe if you're a white supremacist, I'll be really disappointed in you, but I guess you can stay around so long as you're not trolling. So yeah, any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat and we will get to answering them. There's no roasting here. There's no debating. There's no harassment. There's no bullying. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. Maybe you always wanted to ask a certain question, but you're worried it would make you sound like a MAGA person. You can ask that question here. No one's going to judge you. Maybe there's always been a question you wanted to answer, you wanted answered, but you're worried it would make you sound like some sort of a libtard. Well, you can ask that question here. No one's going to call you a libtard or a cuck or anything like that. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. I know politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. There's all these, phrases that people just bandy about as though everybody automatically knows what they mean, like filibuster or reconciliation or continuing resolution. And if you don't know what those things are, it can be really difficult to be part of the conversation and find out what's going on with your government and in your country. And so this is the place where you can ask all of those questions without any kind of fear of judgment or roasting or anything like that. I also know that things are particularly weird these days when trying to talk about politics because of all the misinformation and propaganda that is bouncing around out there willy-nilly. And so this is the place where you can ask your questions about, hey, is this actually happening? Is this misinformation? And even if, there are things that I don't know, we can maybe help get to the bottom of it together. Warped Lake says, has the administration moved so far right that the Second Amendment is a leftist cause? I mean, there's an intellectual exercise towards trying to figure out where Republican politicians and Donald Trump are hypocritical, but they cease to be hypocritical when you recognize that they don't believe that the rules apply to them. Where they're like, we shouldn't have a Second Amendment except for us. It should just be for us, And all the people out there who are like Second Amendment heads who like to point out that in Germany in the 1930s and 40s, the Jewish population was, they got their guns taken away. Like, that's what the Trump administration is trying to do right now. If you are not on Team Trump, Team Republican, if you are a dissenter, if you are a protester, if you're a liberal leftist, then we'll take your guns. Absolutely, we'll take your guns. And we'll murder you if you try to tell us that you don't want us to. Okay, JP says, thoughts on Washington State Governor and AG prepping for ICE? I mean, I think every state should. I know that they were doing shit in Maine that was exactly as fucked up as was going on in Minnesota. And I think that maybe they've scaled back their main operations, but this is up to the minute reporting, so it's a moving target. We're not really sure ever what the Trump administration is up to until we get some on the ground reporting about it. Yeah, baby says, do you think Macron will kidnap Candace and put her on trial like Trump kidnapped Maduro? Probably unlikely, I would say. Sabrina says, my sister watches News Nation, says it is a fair station. I don't know too much about News Nation. If I remember correctly, it seems like a right-wing station, and right-wing news channels are we know that they are the least accurate news that you can get. So I would encourage her to get her news from somewhere else. Yeah, says ICE does stuff in every state every day. I actually don't know if that's accurate, but I'm not going to say it's not accurate. Lyrical Upset says, what the fuck this guy just say? I don't know. You tell me what I just said. Steel Taysom says, sure, bro. Again, I don't know what I said that you guys have a problem with. Let's see here. Ant says, I'm going to be president. All right, good luck, buddy. Lyrical Upset says, bro, you're fear mongering. Well, you are not spelling your correctly, and also I'm not fear mongering. So if there's something that I said that you think is inaccurate, let me know. Yeah, says, it's Minnesota issue, not an ICE issue. I mean, you're right in that it's not an ICE issue because it's both ICE and Customs and Border Patrol. Like, they are both doing the atrocities. But yeah, the issue is not people in Minnesota being upset that ICE is there. The issue is that ICE is harassing and torturing the people in America, and people are standing up against them. Yeah says no. All right, well, do you have any counterpoints, or are you just going to say no? Andrew says, should Fannie Freddie be released? I don't know. Ant says, what if we regulate the regulations? Seems like a good policy position to me. Diego Vargas says, are protests even working at this point? They 100% are. We need more, obviously, but there's a reason why Greg Bovino is not in charge of Customs and Border Patrol in Minnesota anymore or wherever. And it's because the protests are working. There's a reason why people are holding Kristi Noem and J.D. Vance's feet to the fire for saying that, what's his name? Pretty was a domestic terrorist and an assassin with no information. Now they're all walking back those comments. It's working. The work is working. We just need more. We just needed to, we need more people doing it for longer periods of time. Let's see here. Whitney Rose says a judge had to literally put out an order that they couldn't do that. And sometimes they ignore those judges' orders. And so, again, it's up to us, guys. We got to keep on doing the work. Lowell says, do you think America have a right to Greenland? No, we do not have. America does not have a right to Greenland. Fishing Guy says, I find it funny how the right hates the Second Amendment right now. I mean, they don't hate it for themselves. They hate it for everybody who's not them, which is, some real stupid shit, in my opinion. Yeah, says, ICE is doing the same thing in every state, but only one state is in open rebellion against the feds. No, that is inaccurate. People are fighting against ICE and Customs and Border Patrol in every state where they are doing atrocities. I can tell that you are here pushing a specific narrative. Unless you ask a question, I'm going to start booting you because I don't really like it when people come on my live streams and they just tell me no to the things that I'm saying that I know are accurate. Okay, John Abbott says, Greg Abbott spoke out against ICE, saying they need to recalibrate their mission. Do you think he's actually seeing the political winds change or just trying to get ahead of all of the horror? So, yeah, but the tactical retreats that the Trump administration does are not even half a step back. They just want us to relax a little bit so that they can do the 2 steps forward part of things. And so we can't let up. We have to keep up the pressure campaign. The reason why they escalated things after that woman Good was assassinated is because they thought that we would back off because of fear. Now they're hoping that we back off because they've given us some breadcrumbs. They've given us some paltry excuse for compromise. And so I just say don't buy it, until they do some actual until they actually start holding ICE and CPB accountable for the shit that they've done. I say, do not give them a fucking inch. Lowell says, do you think impeachment is a possible outcome with the situation and the threats of midterms? I don't think that the Republican Party is ever going to impeach Donald Trump. They are either too scared of him or too on board with his agenda. The Democrats have a really good chance of getting the House in the midterms so long as we are, prepared for the kind of cheating that the Trump administration is trying to do. Like, there's a reason why the FBI just raided a polling location in Georgia. It's because they are laying the groundwork for stealing ballots and counting machines and doing other sort of fuckery to try to suppress the vote in the midterms, because they know that they're most likely gonna suffer massive defeats in the midterms unless they do some cheating and chicanery. Ecuadorian says the deepest circle of hell is reserved for Kristi Noem and betrayers and mutineers. No arguments here. John Abbott says AutoMod cut the second half of the question. Rewarding to hopefully get through this time. Yeah, my answer stays the same, John Abbott. Nikki says, why are liberals unable to comprehend simple statistical trends? I think they are, Nikki. Can you give me an example of where you think that they do not? Joe says, are hot dogs political? No. Thomas Murray says, what is your political stance? If you don't mind me asking, I'm a progressive Democrat. Sophie, great to see you again. Sorry I pronounced your name so weird there. I got your message. I really appreciate you clarifying your positions on those things. Sophia says, what are your views on climate change? Climate change is real. It is going to be hurting people. It is already hurting people. There are diseases that weren't a problem are now a problem. There are more crazy weather systems. We're going to start seeing food shortages pretty soon. There's going to be mass migration for people trying to leave places that are no longer habitable, which is obviously going to, you know, empower these sort of right-wing populists like Donald Trump who are saying, you're not allowed to come into our country, even though it's the only livable place now. And even though we are largely responsible for the fact that you can't live, where you used to live. Lowell says it's truly scary if he stays, but JD Vance, I feel, would be worse. Thoughts? I don't think that JD Vance has the charisma to get away with the shit that Trump gets away with. So even though JD Vance is smarter than Donald Trump and younger, I still think that it would be less bad for him to be in charge. Chris says, thoughts on the new Predi video showing him antagonizing ICE? I haven't seen that video, and I would just say antagonizing ICE is not a death sentence, and even if it was, ICE agents are not allowed to unilaterally decide that somebody is guilty on the street. I watched the video of him being murdered by them, and it seems pretty clear cut to me. Same thing with Good. Mug says, can Trump legally deport naturalized citizens? I do not believe that Trump can legally deport naturalized citizens. I believe that is the reason why he is trying to end birthright citizenship and why he is trying to establish a precedent for unnaturalizing naturalized citizens. Nikki says, liberals don't think immigrants commit crimes twice as often as non-immigrants. Well, immigrants don't commit crimes twice as often as non-immigrants. Immigrants commit crimes at much lower rates than non-immigrants. Nikki, do you have other information to share on that topic? Cleric of Chaos says, what's your political orientation? I'm a progressive Democrat. Laura Scraff says, where to get true news, the truth. The two things that you want to do are you want to get it from multiple sources. So use an aggregator like Ground News or the Reddit news feed. And you need to avoid right-wing media because right-wing media has been proven to be the least accurate news that you can watch. Okay, Liam says, have you heard the recent news regarding Mike Hawk? Mike Hawk is small. Very funny, Liam. Mike Hawk is small, was what Liam said. Hilarious. Single Dad says, so you believe it's okay to hit someone with a car? I don't believe that she hit him with a car. Diego Vargas says, can you imagine what would happen if Bush didn't steal the election in 2000? I mean, we would be living in a different world, that's for sure. King says, why is our whole government run by Israel? It is not. Joey Bullington says, Lake and Riley. Okay, don't know what that's not a question. Mickey C says, did you hear about Trump going in and getting the ballots in Georgia? Do you think we are going to have fair midterms? So yes, it is true, Mickey, that the Trump administration is going to do really shady and potentially illegal things to try to lie, cheat, and steal their way into midterm wins. But that does not mean that they're going to be successful. What determines whether or not they're successful is how much work people like you and me do to stop them right now. Like, we should be on the phone with our secretaries of state, every single one of us, demanding to know what protections are they implementing in case the Trump administration tries to seize voting machines or ballots or tries to close down roads in Democratic leading districts. It is up to us whether or not they get away with this shit. Because they're going to try, and they have all the power, and they have all the money. So the only advantage that we have is that there's a lot more of us than there are of them. So we just got to do the work. Muzz King Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Likely Accidents says, did you hear the new terms of conditions for TikTok? I saw some reporting on it. I'm a little skeptical that it means what everybody says that it's meaning. There can be some, hyperbolic rhetoric when that stuff comes out right away. I'm giving it a breath to see, what substantive reporting comes out of it. Roy Marsh says, deport all illegal migrants. It's time to put Americans first and not last, like the Democrats support. So that's not accurate. Democrats are not like America last, and it's also not about putting illegal migrants first. But Roy, have you heard that the Trump administration is detaining and deporting people who have like no criminal history whatsoever? They're detaining and torturing American citizens and veterans and Native Americans. Did you hear about that, Roy? I am just curious to see if you are living in the same reality as me. D. Scott Muzzking, thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. Airstyle, what's up? Good to see you again. Josh Serro says, I work in snow plowing. My boss was talking about how winters are getting much worse, and he's conservative thanks to climate change. Yes, accurate. accurate there. Okay. Juggernaut says Obama was worse. No, that is inaccurate. Ask a question or I'm going to boot you. King says left and right, same, Israel first. That is inaccurate, King. There are a record number of Democrats that have been voting against sending more money and weapons to Israel. The Republican Party is still voting en masse to send money and weapons to Israel. So if you want an American government that stands up to Israel and AIPAC, you should be voting for Democrats. Adrian says, how do we actually stop this? We do the work. Adrian, we do the work. And if you want to know what the work is, let me know. Or you can pop over to my Discord. I've got a whole thread titled The Work that lets you know. Camus says, you're just biased. You're just bad spelling. But also, I'm not biased. It is not biased to look at, somebody's blood count and be like, oh, this person's got high cholesterol. Like, I'm just telling you what's going on. Adrian says, what's the work? All right, so the work is a bunch of different things. It is boycotting, protesting, striking, putting pressure on your elected representatives, your business leaders, billionaires, companies, etc. It is calling your representatives. It is supporting organizations that are already doing this great work. Indivisible, Run for Something, Swing Left, Ground Truth, Vote Save America. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to get out there and do it. So I just got reported for unverified claims, which is something that right-leaning people like to do to try to silence me. And since we're only 15 minutes in, I'm going to go ahead and restart on TikTok. Juggernaut says Democrats support Alex Soros and Huma Abedin. I don't know if you're the one who reported me, but I'm just going to go ahead and block you right now because I find that comment annoying. All right, TikTok, I will be right back. Come right back, TikTok. And Twitch and YouTube, I am still here. Okay, Average Joe says, it's not illegal to be a human, nor is it detrimental to display humanity. That is 100% accurate. All right, Josh Saros says, I heard ICE supported an actual criminal preventing him from being charged jewelry robber. That is 100% accurate. Josh, so yeah, the one time that the Trump administration actually did manage to deport an actual criminal, it was a criminal that we wanted to keep here so that they could be held accountable for the fucking jewelry heist, the largest jewelry heist in history or some shit like that. All right, Roy, still waiting for you to let me know that you heard about all the shit that ICE is doing, but it's probably likely that you are not here or you do not care to hear about accurate news. Welcome, everybody. This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is Jarrett, and I am here to answer all of your questions about politics, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. I am here to give you the straight information without any bullying or harassing or misinformation or anything of that nature. Everybody is welcome here. I do not discriminate. I do not get into fights. I do not bully people. I am just here to give good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So this is the place where you can ask all of your questions without fear of being judged or roasted or debating or anything of that nature. I also know that there's a lot of misinformation and propaganda out there, and so it can be really difficult to parse out how, what's actually going on and what's real news. And so this is the place where you can ask all those questions and you can figure out, what's really going on. Green Bay says, how are Republicans doing the midterms? It depends on how much lying and cheating and stealing they get away with, Green Bay. Just based on the polling, it seems like they are going to get routed soon. But I would not put it past the Trump administration to do extremely shady or illegal shit to try to steal ballots or declare that the elections were invalid or some shit like that. Sophia says, how do you think the government should balance the rights of the private sector with environmental protection? I think that it's the government's purview to make sure that, the private sector is not doing more harm than value that they are providing. And so I don't really care if, Walmart gets, $1 billion fewer in profit, so long as they are not poisoning our drinking water and our air for which we are breathing. I think that companies need to get with the fucking program. And I would much rather have a government that is aggressively trying to switch us to 100% renewable energy and get rid of pollution so that our food and our water and our air are safe to consume, then I would worry about, investor income or, making money for the investor class and the owners and shit like that. Trigonometry says, I have a question. All right, ask it. Awesome Sauce says, Trump already wants all mail-in ballots voided. Yeah, he's already started. Alrighty. Trigonometry says, I requested. Well, you can put your question in the chat, my guy. Welcome, everybody. This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. Go ahead and throw your questions in the chat, and we will get to answering them. Dominic says, do you understand the impact of the environment when producing these renewable energies? Yeah, I mean, in order to build the infrastructure to switch over to renewable energy, there will be a cost. Like we will have to drive solar panels places, and we will have to mix concrete to put up, wind turbines and stuff like that. But the advantage of doing that now is that we then no longer have to do the much greater environmental cost of continuing to mine for coal or drill for oil and then burning those sources. Like, it is not even close how much more of a net positive renewable energy is than our current system. Lindsay Reed says, any actual good will come if Noam is fired. Potentially. I think that any kind of, visage of accountability is going to be, a net positive, but it's not going to be all the changes that we're going to want to see. Again, the work continues regardless of if these people are being held accountable in this moment or not. Trigonometry says, didn't read my question. Didn't see your question, Trigonometry. I do not see. Awesome Sauce says, your profile already shows you're 99% going to be biased, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't really trust your Trigonometry. I'm really glad I didn't let you up. Sonia DeBoss, great to see you again, says, all the crap that Trump did in his past, now they're trying to say pretty kicked a car and spit on it. They're going to lie, and, that's part of their purview. But no matter how much they lie, it doesn't matter. Kicking a car is not a death sentence. Spitting on a car is not a death sentence. And even if it was, ICE agents and Customs and Border Patrol are not judge, jury, and executioner. Like, they don't get to unilaterally decide, oh, this person did a capital offense, I get to institute capital law on them right now. Sophia says, but how do you balance environmental goals with the economic realities faced by the working middle class? So there are potentially going to be hiccups in that realm, Sophia. I completely agree with you. But those hiccups are caused by hyper-monopolization. Like, we are at the mercy of companies like Amazon and Walmart, because right now they're the only game in town because they have pushed out all the mom and pop businesses and stuff like that. So how do we solve that problem? Like, how do we fill the gaps and make sure that the poor and the working class and the middle class are not overly harmed, are not paying like a massive price for transitioning over? And my answer to that is the same as my answer to a lot of problems we could solve by just, number one, regulating businesses so that they are not able to do shady shit in order to forward their political agenda. Number two, tax the rich, and we can use that money to try to assist working class families and the poor with any issues that might arise from the transition to renewables. Breaking up monopolies is also going to be a great way for us to have new businesses that adhere to climate policies and, things like that. Regulation is the key there. We just have to do it smartly. And it is true that, when you're driving to work one day and the road that you always drive on is under construction, it sucks. And there's more traffic and you get there 5 or 10 minutes later than you normally would. And that sucks. It sucks. But it's better because then when that street is done, there aren't any potholes on it. And so you save money by not having to replace your shocks and your tires as often. Sometimes there are hiccups when we do progress. Okay, Roy Marsh says, under the Obama administration, 53 illegal immigrants and 3 U.S. citizens were killed during ICE operations or in ICE detention centers. Where was your protesting them, libtards? Doesn't really seem like you're here in good faith, Rory, so I'm just going to go ahead and block you now. That is not what I call, it's not a good faith question if you end it with the word libtard, guys, just letting you know. Lucas says, thoughts on tear gassing a 6-month-old? I'm against it. Lauren says, why don't we pass laws that prohibit businesses from making over a certain percentage of profit? That's an interesting idea, Lauren. I don't know if it works logistically. Like, I think it's fine if companies make profits so long as that profit does not end up in the pockets of just 5 people when 10,000 people worked to make that profit happen. Some sort of institutionalized profit sharing, making sure that the lowest paid employee sits on the board so that they have a say in decisions. The person that makes the most amount in the company is not able to make more than 50 times what the lowest paid employee is. Stuff like that seems a little bit easier to me than sort of like criminalizing a certain level of profit. Maybe criminalizing that profit means that they would have to put that money into the employees or into growing the business, something like that. There are lots of nuts and bolts that need to be worked out where, taxing the rich and helping the working class are concerned. But, no bad ideas in a brainstorm. Ryan says, did you support Trump or Kamala? Kamala. Dave says, yeah, well, so long as a different opinion doesn't come with insults. I don't know who you're talking to there, Dave. It's 50-50 whether you're agreeing with me or the guy who called me a libtard. Eddie says, are you pro-life or pro-choice and why? I am pro-choice because I do not believe that a fetus is a life. Even if you're pro-life, I think you should still vote for Democrats because Democratic policies actually decrease the number of abortions that happen. Republican policies don't do that. They want to tell you that banning abortion is going to stop all abortions or even decrease the number of abortions. That's not what happens. Banning abortion only makes pregnancy more dangerous for women. Women who want to have children are dead because of abortion bans. El Toro says, when are we invading Antarctica? Hopefully never. Randolph says, you look like you support Kamala. I understand I have the kind of face that's like, this guy is really good at sex. And I also understand that people that are good at sex tend to vote Democrat more than Republican. But I just don't care for that kind of stereotyping people based on how they look. That kind of visual profiling, I just find it even though it's extremely complimentary to me in this moment, I just find it very non-productive. And so, I would say maybe just be better in the future. Ms. D says it's also no one's business. I don't know what that's in reference to. Ryan says, but if you kill a fetus, you don't even allow the life to happen. Yeah, sure. And if I pull out, I don't allow life to happen. Should that be illegal as well? Greg Laurie says, just got here. Can we restart? No, thank you. Mia's LV Adventures says, of course, Democrats are very handsome. Totally accurate. Melissa says, power to sexy Dems. I'm doing it every day. Okay. Midwest Sean says, outcome of the midterms. Nobody knows for sure, Midwest. My answer to that question is always, I can't give you a prediction, but I will tell you, you should do the work for the outcome that you want to happen. And don't assume that just because Democrats are polling well right now, that the Trump administration is going to sit down and take that. They are going to do shady shit. And we have to make sure that our secretaries of states and our governors and our mayors are prepared for that. We need to make sure that they have contingencies in place for all the various ways in which the Trump administration is going to try to lie, cheat, and steal their way into electoral victories in the midterms. Batman in Hollywood says, Argathan presidential election when, I don't know what that means. Randolph says, if you are so handsome, why did you grow a beard to hide your face? I would normally make a joke about this, Randolph, but people on the right really like to report my channel for harassment and bullying. And so instead of giving you my hilarious answer to that question, I am instead going to say goodbye. Dave says, do you think protests help or hurt elections? I think they help. I think protests always help. Jay says, I took my documented grandma because of her accent. That's fucked up. I've been hearing all that shit, lately. Here's the thing, guys, and I'm not speaking to any individual human being, specifically, but I will say that mothers in general love my beard because it tickles their clits. And so you can, extrapolate who that comment was directed to and for what reason, just based off of, whatever. Ecuadorian says, we can use them as bargaining chips. We can use what as? John Abbott says, do you think Jeffrey should get primaried? Yes, 100%. Jeffrey should get primaried. Let's see here. Carmine says, no, the beard is to single out all of the DLs that are interested. The DLs. I don't know what DLs are. DLs. Carmine, let me know. Sophia says, but scientifically doesn't life start at conception because the baby has its own DNA separate from the mom. Sophia, I've heard you say this before, that scientifically they have proven that life starts at conception. I do not believe that there is scientific consensus on that. I haven't seen any any, like every medical professional out there saying that that is the case. I think it comes down to belief. I don't, yeah. If you have some information, Sophia, that you're like, all of these scientists are now saying that life officially starts at conception, like, send it over to me, you know? But I don't believe there is that kind of consensus. I believe it comes down to belief. All right, Saruman. Oh, God, I want to do a Lord of the Rings joke so bad. What's your opinion about Basque nationalism? I have no idea. Daniel D says, has Supreme Court justices in any eras always stayed this quiet during national crises like this era? I don't know, Daniel D. I'm not really a history major. I think that what we can 100% say about this Supreme Court is that they are lawless, is that they don't give a shit about what the law actually says. They just want to do what they want to do. Cameron Ha, down low. DL means the down low. Gotcha. Breeley says, Sophia, how are you both a woman and pro-life at the same time? Breeley, there are lots of women who are pro-life because of their religious beliefs. And so we are not going to throw shade at people who are asking good faith questions in the chat. Lindsay Reed says, what would it actually help if Noam is fired? Mostly for messaging, I think. I think it would communicate that the Trump administration is vulnerable to political pressure and protest. I don't think that they are not vulnerable, even if Kristi Noem stays. But the more water that the Trump administration takes in because of people that they have to fire or demote or whatever, the more jobs they have to shuffle off to fucking Marco Rubio because they keep on firing people for no fucking reason. That is better for the resistance movement. Let's see here. Carmine says, damn it, I forgot about human abbreviations. Yeah, I'm bad with all of them. States, etc. Ian Joe says, bro, I appreciate what you're doing. Please get it up. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate you. Okay, let's see here. J Production says, do you know how many people were unalived by ICE during the Obama administration? I do not, JR Production, but I was against it then also. The reason why you didn't hear me talking about it was because I didn't have a live stream back then. So yeah, I didn't think ICE was good during Obama. I also don't think that ICE is good now. The difference between the Obama administration and the Trump administration is that Obama tried to rein in ICE, and they basically just told them to go kick rocks. The Trump administration is empowering ICE. They are saying, we love all of the murdering and illegal detention that you are doing and all of the illegal deportations that you are doing. We love how you are creating chaos in blue cities, and that if hopefully there'll be more violence and we can then justify, declaring martial law or some shit like that, or you're using the Insurrection Act or whatever. So yeah, I would much rather have a Democratic president being in control of an agency that should be abolished. Wait. All right. Daniel D says, where do we donate for your cause? There are a bunch of places that you can donate. If you want to help the stream specifically, you can become a super fan on TikTok. You can send gifts on TikTok. You can join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. If you want to donate to specific causes or organizations, I would recommend checking out my Discord. I have a bunch of groups that I recommend that people donate their time and money to in my Discord channel. Alrighty, let's see here. Somebody whose name I can't read says, how come all of this chaos is only for 1% of the deportations? Seems like Democrats are the problems. I don't know how, honestly, so I don't know how to pronounce your name, but that seems to me like a massive stretch. Like, I don't even see how what you said there is like a common sense interpretation of what's happening, I see ICE doing a bunch of really illegal and barbaric shit and people responding to it, not a peaceful and legal deportation squad operating and then people causing chaos around them. Muzz King, Lindsay Reed, Ryzen, thank you so much for helping me reach my 3rd gift goal of the day. And you know what that means, everybody? It is time for Finger Hearts. It's Finger Hearts o'clock. Celebrate good times. It is Finger Hearts o'clock. All right. Let's see here. Bruh says Noam should resign. 100% she should. Let's see here. Kaz says the difference. ICE, Trump wanted the chaos. Yes, 100% accurate. Dylan Sesko says, don't donate. It doesn't go nowhere other than their pockets. No, Dylan, that is inaccurate. You should 100% donate your time and money to the organizations that I have listed on my Discord channel. D. Scott, Muzz King, Lizzie Reed, thank you so much for helping me reach my first Finger Hearts goal of the day. As it goes. Okay, Finger Hearts number 2. Okay. Francis Power says, the fact you don't understand the comment, are you a moron? Yes. This D-bag thinks these correct. Haha. You seem to know what is unknowable. Francis Powerkeg, I don't really think that you are here in good faith, so I'm going to go ahead and block you, because also you're not really asking any questions. JP, yeah, you fucking nailed it, man. Okay, John Abbott says, nothing he has said is unknowable, kiddo. You just have to get information from places other than Fox News. That is accurate, John. Alrighty, back into these TikTok comments. Ruby's Colorful World says, do you think Tom Homan will make things worse? You know, during the Biden administration, Tom Homan was against mass deportations because he said that what's going on in Minnesota is what would happen. And so I don't think that Tom Homan is a good guy, but I do think that he would be better at this. I think that he has some semblance of, you know, operating as a law enforcement official. I heard an interview with Tim Walz where he said that he was buoyed by his recent meetings with Tom Homan. So, you know, sometimes somebody can do a shitty thing at least a little less shitty than the last shitty person, and that's a little bit better. The overall vibe is still, we have to do work to replace every Republican politician with a Democrat in order to really fix this shit. Okay, Mama Deb says, tomorrow is a blockout day. No work, school, or spending if possible. Stand for something. I'm with you, Mama Debs. Okay, Real Bendis says, Bovina was demoted as I predicted. The tide has dramatically shifted against Noam. She has to resign. Real Benda, one of the tools that the Republican Party uses in order to tamp down dissent is by throwing us crumbs. And so, you know, Mitch McConnell, when Kavanaugh was being nominated, he went out there and he was like, I don't think we have the votes to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. And then a bunch of people like myself all celebrated, and we stopped calling our representatives, and then they passed him through, you know, the nomination. So yeah, I would say we need to demand more accountability. It's great to see a little bit. We need more. We should be incentivized by how much accountability we have seen already, but we need more. We need to demand more. We need to do more. Okay, let's see here. Brian, great to see you again as well. Real Bendis says, Bovino was demoted. Did I call it that Noam would have to resign? I don't know. Let's see here. Hello to you as well, V. Fat Max says, okay, kid, keep telling yourself that. My account is probably older than you are. LOL, that's impossible. Airstyle says, I mean, come on, you can't in good faith say Trump wanted the chaos since he agreed to withdraw some feds the second the police said they would help out. I don't buy that timeline for a second, Airstyle. If you want to actually, like, trade articles or something and we can, like, try to piece together a timeline, not during the stream, let me know. But I'm just going to say, just, you know, based on the way that I have been paying attention to the situation, it does not seem like that is accurate at all. Everything that Trump has done in this term has been to increase chaos. And I think it's intellectually dishonest to say that that is not the case. But if you want to, like, go over it, finer points, I'm down for that, Airstyle. Fat Max says, you are literally proving my point that you have no clue what is real. All right, well, you're out of here, buddy. See you later. Alrighty. All right, comments have kind of slowed down a little bit over here on TikTok. Okay. Bot came back as Fat Mac. Yeah, probably. Alrighty. Wallach says, I was listening. Oh, I'm glad to hear that you were, Wallach. Green Alternatives and Solar says, do you think Jess McCrockett is going to win? I don't know how that primary or general election is going to work out, but I think Crockett and Tallarico are both great. So I think that Texas would do great with either one of those options. Okay, East Meets West says, I haven't been able to come on live since all of this. I've been donating, but just devastated. I am completely with you, East Meets Westy. It is it can be a real drain on your heart and your soul to be paying attention to what the Trump administration is doing to the lives that have been destroyed. It's like it's heartbreaking. It is. Yeah, I there aren't strong enough words to think about Good's children and Good's wife and what they must be going through right now for no fucking reason, for solving no fucking problem. Yeah, it's just sometimes you got to take a break. Sometimes you got to watch a movie, do some gardening, spend some time with the people that you love, and then you get back into the fights. D. Scott V. East meets Westy. Thank you so much for helping me reach my second finger guns goal of the day. Finger hearts, not finger guns. Monty says, where are you on the political spectrum? I am a progressive Democrat. Real Benda says, do you agree that Trump's low approval ratings of about 30% is many about the ICE killings? I mean, I think it's a lot of things, People are going bankrupt. Businesses are closing down. Farms are closing down. People are upset about Minnesota. They're upset about Venezuela. They're upset about Greenland. They're upset about the cryptocurrency. They're upset about the Qatari plane. They're upset about the lies. They're upset about all the corruption. There's so many things that are causing it. Stormy Norton says, do you think the government is going to shut down tomorrow? I don't know, but I do hope that it does, because I think that, I don't think that it is I don't think that it is even a little bit morally acceptable to continue to fund a government that is enabling this bullshit. Alrighty, John Abbas, is it able to say what Trump does or doesn't want when it's pretty clear Miller is the one actually running everything? Yeah, I think the paradigm that I've heard people describe it as is that Trump wants to build his ballrooms and be the ultimate say, but the nuts and bolts of actually running the government is Stephen Miller right now. And so that's terrifying and horrifying, and another reason why we should be shutting down the government. Sophia says, beyond just law enforcement, do you think there are ways to address long-term causes of illegal immigration? Absolutely. So we need to work with the countries that illegal migrants are coming from to fix whatever problem is causing them to want to come here. Can we do things to strengthen their economy? Can we do things to weaken the cartels? Can we help stop the civil wars? Can we help stop the abuses of human rights? Obviously, there's only so much that we can do. But the more countries that we get to stabilize, the more places these people can go, and we won't overwhelm, America. I think a big thing, Sophia, don't let me forget this, is about the value of immigration. Like maybe, we would have less illegal immigration if we had a legal immigration system that worked. Like right now, the Trump administration has made it so it is virtually impossible for you to become an American citizen unless you are rich and white. And that increases illegal immigration because there are fewer people who can come the right way, as people like to describe it. East meets West EV. Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my third Finger Hearts goal of the day. All right, what are we going to now? Lee Palmer says, yes, give everyone our tax dollars, problem solved. I mean, yeah, if we take it from rich people, if we tax rich people and then give that money to not rich people, that would solve a lot of problems. And you will never convince me that that is not accurate. All right, we'll do big flowers next. Brian Barbetta says, do you think we should have open borders? I think an argument could be made for it sometime in the far future, but right now I think that there's value to having a border. V says, what are your thoughts on what happened in Georgia? It is terrifying. It is a gross abuse of power. Like, Kash Patel should be in jail for that. Like, that is fucking insane. That they raided a polling location because the president thinks that he won an election 6 years ago? 6 fucking years ago. Are you out of your fucking mind, man? That is psychotic. And it is really worrisome to consider what they could be thinking about doing in the midterms and beyond. And that is the reason why we need to be doing the work right fucking now. We need to be doing the work right now to make sure that we have contingency plans for any sort of bullshit that Trump and his minions are going to try to pull to try to steal elections going forward. It's fucking terrifying, man. Triska, V, East Meets Westy, Lindsay, Muzz King, thank you so much for helping me reach my first Rossa goal of the day. And goddamn, did I really need a palate cleanser after thinking about that fucking raid in Georgia. Oy, 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 oy. All right, second giant rose of the day. Okay. Chris says, what specific concerns made Trump feel like the lesser evil, and what would change that view? So I don't believe, Chris, that it's an interesting question. I think that people were convinced that Trump was the lesser of two evils because of billionaire-funded propaganda and misinformation. I think that the Democrats and Kamala Harris suffered from an incumbency bias. People were upset about rising costs, even though those costs went up strictly because of mistakes that Trump and Republicans had made in the past. They blamed whoever was in charge, and so they wanted to switch. Because of all of the billionaire-funded propaganda that helps support Republican candidates, it is really easy for Americans to forget about things like January 6th and who fucked up COVID and who started the trade wars and you know, the fine people on both sides bullshit and, you know, insert completely unconscionable thing that Trump did during his first term here. The way that we solve that, the way that we solve the problem of misinformation and propaganda is that we do the work of making sure that everybody that we know is getting accurate information and is not currently believing anything that is bullshit. And that's a big job. But the fact of the matter is that the rich people have been on this shit for a long time. And they own all the major news organizations. They own all the major newspapers. They own all of the social media sites. And so the pathway for which accurate information can get from, you know, reporters to us has been captured by bad faith actors. And so it's hard. It's difficult. But that just means that we have to do the work. There are so many of us out there. There's so many people out there that if we just did the work of communicating to each other, I believe that we could undo the work that these propaganda machines are doing. Grr says, Israel or Palestine? I am for the citizens of both those places. I am against the governing bodies of both those places. Alrighty, let's see here. Airstyle says, by the way, where do you stand on Iran? Should the U.S. intervene? That is a very complicated question. Let me get to that in just a second. Airstyle. Patrick, been a while. What just happened in Georgia? The FBI raided a polling location because they believe that there was massive voter fraud in the 2020 election. It is basically just it's a two-part thing that the FBI is doing right now. It is, number one, seeing how they can fuck with elections going forward, and number two, looking for some sort of evidence that they can fabricate to suggest that Trump actually won Georgia in 2020. So it's stupid, corrupt, shitty, like all the negative words. East Meets Westy, what the fits, Jojo, V, and Triska, thank you so much for helping reach my second giant rose goal of the day. All right, gonna go ahead and block that person. Where are we at? All right, Airstyle, I do want to get to that question. Just give me a hot second. That was the second one. All right, here we go. Okay, so where Iran is concerned, we gave up probably the best leverage that we had for transitioning Iran to a more humanitarian government and making sure that they never had a nuclear weapon. That all ended the day that Trump threw the Iran nuclear deal in the garbage. Now there is this protest movement that is happening within Iran, and they're, I don't know, months, weeks, years, I don't know how far away they are from getting a nuclear weapon, and they're going to dig it so far into the ground that we're not going to be able to stop them. I do believe that we should be supporting the protesters. I don't know how we do that without putting boots on the ground. It's possible that we do strikes on military targets away from the city centers and then tell the Iranian government, like, we'll stop doing this if you stop murdering your protesters. That might have some sort of efficacy. I don't know. But yeah, I do think that we should be supporting the protesters. But I worry that the more involved America gets, the less popular those protests become within the country, because the people who are against the protests are going to say that, oh, these people are just being paid by America to do this. They're not really Iranians. They're paid agitators. The same shit that the right says about people here in America. And so I think it does us better to have a soft hand going, in trying to affect Iran. Righty, back into the TikTok comments. D. Scott says, wasn't the Georgia district invoked in Smith's investigation as well? Yeah, I believe it was, but Smith was trying to prove that Trump illegally pressured the state government in Georgia, to fabricate vote totals for him. It was, what do you call it? Election tampering, electioneering, whatever the word is for that crime. So yeah, I don't think that Jack Smith was trying to say that there were election irregularities. He was trying to show the lack of irregularities as more evidence that Trump knew that he lost that election and that he was trying to steal it. Okay, Triska says, do you think it's possible to lessen the grip of capitalism in the U.S.? 100%, Triska. Something that I have been obsessed with lately has been starting employee-owned businesses. And I'm a little too busy with my 2 jobs and my pregnant wife to do that at the moment. But they're great. Like, employee-owned companies are great. And because you are not shuffling all of the proceeds into the pockets of 1 or 2 people, you are able to support your employees more, you have better worker retention, and you have more money available for expanding and perfecting the business. So people should do it. I want people to do that so badly. I would love to do it. If I had 1 million extra hours a day, 100%, I would start a employee-owned coffee company and have that, and put one up right next to every fucking Starbucks. Employee-owned burger company, put one of those up next to every fucking In-N-Out and McDonald's. Let's fucking make that shit happen. Brian Barbita says, would you check out my politics page when I create one? Inspo from you. I love all these lines. Absolutely, Brian Barbita. Mateo says, Southwest Airlines is like they make you rich. Is Southwest Airlines employee owned? That would be the first I've heard of it, if that is the case. Ready. Thank you, Rubies. I appreciate that. Real Bennett says, do you think that if protesters hired armed guards to protect them, that would help or hurt things? It's a really good question, Real Benda. Are there ways that we can scare ICE and CPB into not doing more atrocities on, Americans? It's possible, but I think that it's dangerous. Like, when you hire armed guards to protect the protesters, are you actually going to start a civil war where ICE is now firing on the private guards that you hired? And now there's a fucking gun battle in the middle of an American street? Like, that's fucking terrifying. I think we have a better chance of a productive and sustained progressive movement if we maintain a non-violent resistance right now. All right. Salvanor says, we all stand with Israel. I mean, I don't stand with Netanyahu. Let's see here. Pablo Mendez, thoughts on Israel. I'm for the people. I'm against the government. Air Styles says, I don't agree with him on most topics, but then again, I am obnoxious and rude and just throw insults. Pretty funny, Hairstyle. I saw the correction. I was giggling at the original comments. Patrick Kinney says, how's your wife doing? Is she getting close? We are almost in the 3rd trimester. We're very excited about it. Less than 3 months away, I believe, depending on if the baby is early or late. M5 says, hello from Israel. I hate my government too. Then you are my favorite kind of person living in Israel. Pablo Mendez says, thoughts on how the worldview would look with Kamala in office? I mean, other than way, way better, I can't tell you any more than that. I can tell you that we would not have that Good and Pretty would still be alive. I can tell you that Abrego Garcia would not have just wasted an entire year of his life fighting spurious allegations. I can tell you that we would not have wasted taxpayer money seizing Venezuelan oil so that a bunch of billionaires can get richer. I can tell you that all of our allies would not be forming coalitions with China because they can no longer look to us as trading or security partners, yeah, you know, there are so many things that would be better if Kamala Harris was in charge right now. The Fixer Mike says, how long are we going to have to suffer through this dark period? The more people that do the work, Fixer Mike, the quicker we're able to get through this dark period. So let's all do the fucking work. And let's recruit other people to do the work. Mark says, why are you talking politics if you're biased? I'm not biased. Bruh says, shouldn't Dems start campaigning for the midterms? I believe they have. Brian Barbetta says, would you ever be open to voting for an independent? I don't know if I'm ever going to be alive when an independent can win an election that doesn't have ranked choice voting. I would be down for voting for an independent if I had ranked choice voting, but I refuse to sacrifice my vote for an independent if that's going to put a Republican in office. Oh, right. Triska says Bernie is an independent. Yeah, but he wins the Democratic primary, you know. Alrighty. Torre says, say hello to high prices thanks to Trump. That is accurate. Mark says you're clearly biased. I'm not, though. Mark, can you tell me one thing that I have said that is biased? Dare O'Brien says, are a lot of ICE agents Hispanic, or is that just propaganda? I have no idea what the demographic breakdown is of ICE agents. Brian Barbita says, I understand. I wish it wasn't that way. I hate political parties. Yeah, I remember. Weren't you talking about getting rid of them or making them illegal in the last one? I remember. Mark says, how are you not biased? That's not how this works, Mark. You called me biased, so you have to prove that I'm biased. I don't get to prove that I'm not biased to you. Awesome Sauce says, can you just mute the Daniel guy? He's actively spreading lies. Who's the Daniel guy? Daniel Winterbottom. I'm just curious what research is made up of CNN. All right, yeah, I can go ahead and block that guy. Okay, Brian Barbita says, yes, I think it would benefit us, but it's more of a utopia to idea. Yeah, totally. Torre says, cops are rotting in the field thanks to Trump's tariffs and Trump's crops, not cops. Crops are rotting in the field. Yes, that is accurate. Let's see here. Sullivan or says, do you support Ukraine? Yes, I do. Sean says, we all have biases. Nothing wrong with that. Yes, but he is calling me biased as if to say I am ignoring negative things about Democrats and only talking about negative things about Republicans, which is not accurate. Mark says, I asked you already before you asked me to prove you. All right, well, that's still not how this works, man. In America, you are innocent until proven guilty. So I am unbiased until you can prove that I am biased. Also, ask a question or I'm going to boot you. I do not care to have this argument. Ready. Greeley says, how is Sophia not supportive of Israel when she is a Republican? Well, she disagrees with some of the things that her party does. Rogue Mayhem says, never listen to anyone who can't acknowledge their own biases. Everyone has bias. That is accurate. Dragon B17 says, do you think there will be a blue wave for the midterms? I think that if there were justice in the world, then yes. We have to worry about what the Trump administration is going to do to try to steal the election. And so we have to do a lot of extra work now to circumvent any kind of fuckery that they're going to be doing then. So, Vaga War, great to see you again, says his mother had interesting. It's less. I love you guys picking up the slack because I can't make those jokes anymore where I get reported for harassment and bullying. Mr. C says gold standard or silver standard. That unfortunately is way over my head. Tori says, where was Preddy's trial? Yeah, excellent question. Where was it? Brian Barbita says, how is it biased for having political opinions that makes no sense? I think it's even simpler than that, Brian Barbita. Like, if a doctor looks at an x-ray and says you have cancer, is that doctor biased against cancer? I think it's just reporting, to say what's actually going on. And the Republican Party, and I'm not including voters in this. I don't believe in denigrating other voters. I'm talking about the politicians and the talking heads like Ben Shapiro. They have gone fucking insane. They are fucking psychotic. The things that they are condoning and enabling and actively doing right now are so far beyond the fucking pale that there is no hyperbole to describe it. It is fucking insane that ICE and CPB are doing what they are doing, and every single fucking Republican in Congress has not voted to impeach. That is insane. It is insane that a president has a fucking cryptocurrency and is accepting unlimited bribes from who the fuck knows who. And every single Republican in Congress is silent and asleep at the wheel. That is fucking insane. So yeah, that's not biased. That is just looking at an x-ray and saying America's got cancer. Bruh says, how many seats did Dems pick up from redistricting? I have no idea. Lenny Miller says, you sound so smart. Right. Thank you, Lenny. Brian Barbada says people need to stop degrading voters. I agree. Yes, 100%. Fog of War Productions says his mother has been sending lewd love letters on a bi-weekly basis, and his father is none the wiser. Sociology Doctor says, do you suspect apartheid billionaires manipulated tabulators within margin to not trigger an auto recount? Are you talking about in America? I have not seen any definitive evidence that vote totals were changed in the 2024 election. I think that the Rockland County case was really interesting, and I really want to see how that goes. There's a roadblock right now. I think that the judge threw out the case based on some, based on some procedural issue that was being held. So the Election Truth group that was behind that lawsuit is not giving up. And so, yeah, I definitely want to know what happened there. But until we get that evidence, I don't think that it is productive to say definitively that there was election vote changing in the 2024 election. Okay, Sociology says Rockland is on appeal. Great to hear. Lenny Miller says you're the next Alex Pretty if you keep talking like that. Oh, Lenny, you were being sarcastic. I was joking, you DA. Oh, you called me a dumbass. Oh, okay. Lenny Miller is threatening to murder me by saying you're the next Alex Pretty if you keep talking like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and block you now. Yeah. That's pretty upsetting, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Lord. That is really upsetting that somebody would think that that's an okay thing to do, you know? You know what else is upsetting? When people fuck people's moms, you know? That is very upsetting. So I feel bad. I feel bad for anybody whose mom is getting fucked, especially by me. Oh, okay. Oreo20 says, U.S. cyber ops that shielded foreign election trolls. Now Trump has gutted protections. What do you think? That sounds a little conspiracy theory-y, but obviously Trump did gut the protections, so that is obviously very concerning. The federal government doesn't run elections, though, so it's up to states, and we can put political pressure on our state representatives and get more out of them than putting political pressure on federal politicians. So everybody should do that, you know? Because I'm with you. Like, I am worried about voting being fair and free going forward, too. But that just means that we have to do the work to make sure that our elections are free and fair. Like, it's not just a decision that Trump gets to make, whether or not that's accurate or not, you know, whether or not our elections are free or fair. Yeah, just do the work, guys. You know, he's going to try. Like, we know he's going to try. So do the work now to stop it. Okay, bruh says, time to do away with electoral college. It's DEI. 100% agree with that. If you have not already done so, everybody should call their state representatives and tell them that you want to sign up for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. That would end the electoral college. All right, I got to get over to these Twitch comments for a second. I've been ignoring you guys for way too long. All right, Average Joe, great to see you again. He would like to plug Zishan Hafiz, who is the progressive candidate in Texas 33, running on policies like abolishing ICE. So if you live in Texas's 33rd district, then you should check out zshawnfortexas.com. That sounds like a dope politician. I don't know who they are, so I can't, endorse them myself. But Average Joe is typically on the level, so everybody check out Zshawn for Texas. Alrighty. Digital Micah says, volunteer at your local polling station. Yes, I agree. Alex Barnes says, does Sophie actually support and care about the laws? I don't know. Linda Juliana says, everyone vote. Yes, 100%. Let's see here. John says, voting is being disrupted by Republicans at local levels. Well, let's stop that. You know, let's stop it. They have not fully captured our electoral systems. And we know that because Democrats have been winning every special election since Trump got elected in 24. So they're, it's not to say that we can't have free and fair elections going forward. It's just that it's going to be harder because Trump and Stephen Miller are going to try to make elections not fair going forward. Okay. Ooferson says, did my question come through? I do not know. I'm scrolling up. I am scrolling up. Covert Vegan says, should moderate Democrats become Republicans and try to win some Republican seats? I don't think so. I think it's probably easier and more productive if moderate Democrats and progressive Democrats just work together and recognize that we are a rainbow coalition and that we are not our own enemy. Right. So Mateo says, belt or paddle? For moms? I guess I would go paddle. Alex Barnes, already did that one. Dare O'Brien says, do you not think if we have less border security, there will be more drug smuggling from Mexico? Yeah, I don't think that I'm not against border security, Dare. So yeah. Brian Barbita says, I visited the Capitol Hill day before the shutdown. I heard lots of opinions on the Affordable Care Act. What's yours? I like the Affordable Care Act, but it is one step on a long road to making healthcare free to everybody in America. And because we keep ping-ponging back and forth between Republicans being in charge and Democrats being in charge, every time Democrats make waves and make progress on certain issues, the Republicans just roll it back as much as they possibly can. And the Affordable Care Act was, had a strong enough foundation where even getting rid of the mandate did not hurt it. But getting rid of the subsidies is going to hurt it. And it's going to hurt Americans who are now going to have to spend like 3 times more on their health insurance premiums and shit like that. So yeah, it was a good piece of legislation. It saved lives. Some people got kind of fucked because, again, whenever you make big changes like that, some people get lost in the cracks, and it should be the job of the government to make sure that those people who got hurt by that are taken care of. But yeah, it was a flawed piece of legislation on the way to universal health care. Okay. Theory Smasher says, you do your work. I absolutely do. All right, scrolling down to the bottom of the TikTok comments. John Abbas has just pulled up Mr. Hafiz's website and immediately see a man with the same hairstyle as Jarrett. Well, that means he's dope as hell. All right. Alex Barnes says, why do some say they conservative in politics, but they live their life says the opposite? Well, hypocrisy exists everywhere, I suppose. Okay. Digital Micah says, messaging needs to be targeted. We need to equate Trump to the Republican Party. Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think we need to remember that Trump is not the only problem, that it is all the Republicans who are cheering him on and or just allowing him to do it because they're scared of him. Real Bender says, do you think Vance will eventually distance himself from Trump because he's ruining his chances for 28? I do not. I think Vance is going to try to inherit the MAGA base, and it is my prediction that he will fail. But remember, political predictions are completely worthless. Uferson says, what do you think the world would be like sociopaths were barred from being politicians? Probably better. Ruby's Colorful World says, I saw a Trump supporter mad at him because of the tax on overtime. Apparently Trump lied. Well, insert Pikachu shocked face here. Passport Bros says Republicans are not scared of Trump. There are some who are scared of Trump. That's the reason why they haven't impeached him yet. Sean Dordecker says, I don't think anyone's going to try to distance themselves from their main supporting party. Yeah, probably. Brian Barbita says, my issue with universal health care is I think quality of care would go down. Can you give your thoughts? I do not believe that we can get worse care for more money than we have right now. If you look at every other, industrialized nation that has universal health care, they have better healthcare outcomes, shorter wait times, and they spend less money on it. So I've heard these theoretical objections, Brian, from other people in the past that it's going to explode wait times and the care is going to be worse, but I have not seen it borne out. Every country that has universal health care is refusing to get rid of it because it is better. All right, Tina says, and they have better preventative care. Yes, accurate. John Abbott had a really good. Somebody said, Ruby's World says, apparently Trump lied. John Abbott goes, apparently fork in kitchen. Alrighty. User bunch of number says, go Trump. That's a block. We're a little over the regular amount of time that I usually stream. So I'm going to do my outro, but any questions that you guys want me to answer after the outro, go ahead and throw them in the chat and we'll try to get to them. I want to thank everybody for being here, for the gifts, the likes, the shares, all the support you guys give me is essential for me to continue to do this show. If you want to support the show financially, you can, but you don't have to. I know we're all struggling, but the mechanisms are there if you like. If you're on TikTok, you can become a super fan, or you can send gifts. If you're on Twitch, you can become a subscriber. And if you're an Amazon Prime person, then you can subscribe to my Twitch for nothing. It is free to subscribe to my Twitch channel using your Amazon Prime account, and that shit helps me out a ton. You can also join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And I think there's things that you can do on YouTube, but I don't know enough about that. Special thanks to everybody who has already contributed financially today in the live stream with the gifts, but also to my regular subscribers and gifters, Grim McKiss, Robert, Shannon, Carmine, Patrick, Dan Blackroyd, and the two Seans. Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. My schedule will be updated with anything cool or different or interesting on my website and on my TikTok and Twitch calendar. We're doing a second live stream today, guys, at 5 p.m. Pacific time. I'm promoting my stand-up album. My stand-up special is coming out on Saturday, this Saturday, at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So we're doing a special comics, comedian specific, ask me anything about being a stand-up or whatever tonight at 5 p.m. So come check that out as well if you want to ask me any questions about stand-up or comedy in general, or you want to hear any stories about being a comedian, because I got a whole bunch of those. So come check that out as well. If there are any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream, or you want to follow up with me on stuff, or things come up later, then do not be shy about reaching out to me. I am down with it. I am down with you guys sending me DMs and emailing through my website and getting in touch with me via my Discord channel. I want to be a resource for you guys to be more informed and more involved in politics. And so if I can do that in some way, I want to do that. So email me, hit me up, do whatever you need to do. Use me to abuse me, use me until you use me up. I also love the Discord because there's great recommendations there for the work that we need to be doing, for podcasts, for books, and also for great organizations that desperately need your time and money. We need to support these organizations because they are doing the work. And, sometimes it can be difficult to figure out what we can do as individuals. The best thing you can do as an individual is join a group. So, Indivisible, Run for Something, Vote Save America, Ground Truth, Swing Left, go work with them. They need you. They want you. They are doing the work, guys. And we all need to be doing the work. Otherwise, we're fucked. All right. Final questions. JP says, when is your show? This Saturday, the video drops at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I will be there at 10 a.m. in the chat. If anybody wants to tell me, hey, Jarrett, I really like that joke, then I'll chat back something like thanks or whatever. Okay, JP says, have you by any chance watched the recent set by Chuck Nice? I think you would enjoy it. I have no idea who Chuck Nice is, but I will check. I will check out this Chuck Nice fellow. Seems pretty interesting. TY says, I want to take your money. I mean, if somebody wants to give me money, I'm not going to say no. Asian 47 says, thanks for being frank and honest. The outside world is learning from your stream. I'm very happy to be doing that. That's the entire point of me doing it. Grace 123 says, paper said government closes 1:30, did not fund government. The Republican Democrats government shutdown. I am for the government shutting down, so that makes me happy. Ready. Let's see here. Kimberlina says, did I miss something about Jeffries? I don't know if there's any news about Jeffries, but I definitely think that we should primary him. C. Flan, thank you so much. I hope that you like the special. TY says, where should healthcare funding come from while you make money from donations? ? I mean, what is your problem with me asking for donations, my guy? I'm out here. I'm doing an hour live stream every single weekday. And if somebody wants to support me and encourage me to continue doing it because they believe in what I'm doing here, I think that's fine. And I think that's great. As far as where funding for healthcare should come from rich people, I don't know if you heard, but there are these guys out there who have hundreds of billions of dollars. They're buying fucking golden yachts and mega jets and giant fucking mansions and shit like that, eating caviar and lobster 3 meals a day while people like you and I are struggling to pay the fucking electric bill. You know, TY, I think that you should be more upset about the way that rich people are fucking you over, man. Because we could have universal health care. You could not have to pay for health care at all. And all we would have to do is take Elon Musk from being a 500 billionaire to being a 1 billionaire. Lauren says, don't forget me, I accidentally unsubbed, but I still paid this. Okay, Lauren, I will put you on the list. I will put Lauren on the list as well. Okay, thank you, Allie. Sean says, you have a great day. I enjoyed your stream. First time viewing it. Thanks, Sean. I'm here every weekday, Monday through Friday, start around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Carmine says, why do you dislike brushing your teeth? And what is the hygienist salary like? That's an excellent question. I didn't ask me anything over on Reddit to promote the stand-up special coming out on Saturday. And somebody asked me what my ideal Sunday was. And as part of my ideal Sunday, I was like, I hate brushing my teeth, so I'll just have a hygienist come over and clean my teeth for me. I have like really bad gums, and so I have to be really up on maintaining my oral health. And I'm just tired of it. You know, I've been doing it for so long. I would love, and especially like at the end of the night, and I'm just like getting ready for bed, and I'm just like, fuck me, I gotta do my whole fucking teeth thing, you know? So yeah, that is why I do not like that. Toddly Enough says, can you explain how Ruby Ridge plays to what could happen if anything? I don't know what that means. Fogwar Production says, should we solve cultural issues with cultural solutions rather than politics? It's an interesting idea, Fogwar Productions. I'd love to hear more specifics about how that would happen. TY says, I'm asking where we take healthcare funding from a healthcare worker. From the rich, TY. I already answered that question. Okay, John Galt says, just the care of yourself and you wouldn't need healthcare. Not everybody has the ability to do that, John Galt. If you get cancer, is that because you did something wrong? There are lots of people who have perfectly healthy lifestyles that end up getting cancer. You know, non-smokers get lung cancer all the time. Non-drinkers get liver cancer all the time. So, you know, I do not buy the individual responsibility version of good governance. You know, sometimes people need help. And when we help one person, we help everybody. Alex Barnes says, has anyone seen Sophia's account? She ain't no Christian. I would like to ask everybody to not troll people who are asking good faith questions in my live stream. All right. You might disagree with the way that Sophia is living her life or her political opinions, but she is here in good faith. And she doesn't seem to be, you know, she ain't trolling, guys, you know. So let's not push away people who are potentially convincible. Maybe she's not. Maybe she is going to say to me after I've talked to her, after all these live streams, Jarrett, you haven't convinced me of one fucking thing. Well, you know, at least she thinks that there's at least one Democrat out there who wasn't an asshole. So let's do that, guys. Let's see here. Ty says, from the rich, do not send money to this guy. He helps no one. All right, Ty. Seems weird. Seems real weird, Ty. All right. Ty reminds me. The word Ty reminds me of what some people do to some people's moms for the purpose of kinky intercourse. And I think that's interesting. I think it's interesting that that guy's name reminded me of that thing that some people do. All right, everybody. I will see you guys tomorrow. No, I will see you guys later today at 5 p.m. Pacific time. What time is it now? Where I am, it's 12:30, so we'll see you guys in 4.5 hours for the stand-up comedian Ask Me Anything. And if you're only here for my politics, then I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.